welcome to the Insurance Buzz. I am pumped today. We've got Courtney Weaver, my spouse and business owner, business partner. We've got special guest with us today, JM Ryerson. JM, how are you?
Brother, I'm great. How are you guys doing?
We are so good. We're so excited to chat today. We're going to dive right into it.
Yeah, man. So you've got quite the history, quite the background in insurance itself. So before Let's Go Win got started, talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, man, insurance is near and dear to my heart because that's really what I grew up doing professionally. For 18, almost 19 years, I grew three different IMOs. I guess I'm talking to insurance people so they know what the heck that is. And so I grew that. We started with a smaller company called Affinity, and we grew that to 8 offices. Then we merged with another company. Terrible idea because it was absolutely a train wreck culturally. Our values were not aligned. Great human beings. It's just, look, we didn't jive. And we still succeeded somehow throughout that, which is crazy. And then the last one was a company called Appreciation. And so I think there's 26 offices that we grew that to. So I loved it, man. I mean, I built teams. I'm passionate about leadership and teams and performance. I did do sales and insurance, but it wasn't for very long because I literally decided I want to help build distribution. So that's what I did. And then Let's Go Win happened after I wrote the first book and just got into loving the coaching side of things.
Yeah. So talk about your first book because you've written 2 books, correct?
I have written 2. Yeah, the second one, to call it a book is probably not. It's a playbook, so it's only 11 pages of text, and then it's like a playbook, journaling. But the first book I wrote for my 2 boys. We have 16 and 13-year-old boys, and the idea was to give them lessons, so maybe they didn't scrape their knees as many times as I did growing up. Mm-hmm. And it's really lessons from my parents, grandparents, authors and mentors that I've had, all put into a pretty easy to read. I think it's 180 pages. And basically, if you jumped on a plane in LA, jumped off the plane in New York, you were able to, get quite a few takeaways in the 12 areas of life to live your best life. So that's why I wrote it. And it just sent me on this really crazy journey called Let's Go Win.
No, that's awesome, man. So I got to ask, how did you get turned on to insurance? I don't know if anybody really is like, let's go be an insurance agent. Let's sell some life insurance.
It's a great question. And I was actually applying to be an FBI agent. I come from a line of FBI agents. My uncle was, my grandfather was. I went to a wedding. Again, I'm from Montana. And at the night before the wedding, got into a little bit of a fight. Well, a few of us got put into jail, and that kind of destroys your getting into the FBI world. And no charges happened, but the FBI knew about it. So I also was looking at the time doing medical device sales, and then I met this one guy, and his name's Rich. We were business partners. It ended up being for 17 years. And when I met the guy, we just clicked, man. He was this great guy, and he said 2 things that attracted me. He's like, you can golf every Friday and make as much money as you want. And I was like, I'm in. I didn't ask any more questions than that. And it just led us to doing this amazing partnership and 3 companies later.
Dude, that's awesome. And I know, and you didn't really do much of the selling. Like you said, I think you did more of the leadership, building the cultures, establishing the teams. Is that right?
It is. I mean, I did sell my first year. I broke a national sales record, which I only say that to say I did know what I was doing a little bit. But honestly, you know what I was good at, you guys? I was good at being at multiple places at the same time because I was never going to be the one with the knowledge. I didn't geek out on what an annuity was or how they're structured or IULs and all the various stuff. I didn't care for that. But what I did like was connecting with human beings. So I didn't do the sales part long. I only did that for the year and a half, I guess is what it was. But I did do okay when I did it. But it was all because I would connect with somebody and say, I know somebody you should meet with. And I would set up somebody to come in and be that expert in whatever planning it was at that time. So that's why I defer and say I'm not an insurance sales guy, because I don't know the lingo all that well, but connecting with human beings, I was decent at it.
Well, and I think that building a culture in sales, those are kind of all in the same wheelhouse. And what you're doing right now is a lot of mindset. And I think as a sales professional or as a leader, you're still having to deal with kind of those roadblocks, kind of the foundation, the principles that you wrote about in that book. How does that translate to professionals in the insurance field or just business professionals in general?
Yeah, what's so fascinating, I totally agree with you. What's fascinating about the mindset is, from working with executives in insurance to executives in real estate to executives in the tech world to professional athletes, it's all the same stuff. And that's what's crazy, is it's like, I know it's a totally different world. And if you got into acronyms, yeah, they're different. But when it comes to the mindset of it all, when it comes to the routines of it all, it's the exact same. And I don't care if I'm talking to a pro golfer, which I've coached, a sushi chef, which I've coached, or an executive of a Fortune 500. Literally, we're going to talk about the same things. We're going to set up the exact same thing. And yeah, professionally, you may have a couple tweaks that are a little different, but it's human beings. So we're literally talking about, what are your incentives? What drives you? What does your routine look? What's your why? What's your intent? And once you figure that out, I don't care what industry you're in. If it's insurance, you'll go crush it. If it's whatever industry, you'll crush it.
So Michael's a big daily success habits. Like, he's like a proud member of the 5 a.m. club. We did this like book swap because he's a machine when it comes to reading books. And I said, all right, you have to read stories that stick because I love telling a good story. And he's like, all right, well, you have to read the 5 a.m. club. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to do that, but okay. So I want to hear about your routine, or what you think really kind of sets somebody up to win the day, so to speak.
I do believe, by the way, I would be closer to Michael's 5 a.m. club than I would be to any other club. With that being said, my routine is pretty substantial, so I don't think that's repeatable. I'm happy to share it with you. But when it comes to when I coach my clients, I believe in taking care of three things: your mind, your body, and your soul before you do anything. And what's interesting, Courtney, to speaking to a female specifically, when I deal with my female clients, 99% of the time I say, hey, what do you do to take care of you? And they tell me about the house, kids, the dog, the career, the car. I mean, the list is like that long. And I said, no, what are you doing for you? And then I think the light bulb starts to come on. It's like, I need you to be more selfish so you can be the most unselfish person the way you want to be. Now, that's generalizing females, but this applies to everyone. Unless you take care of yourself first, you can't show up and be the best employee, the best business owner, the best salesperson, whatever hat you're wearing at that time. Unless you take care of yourself first, it's really challenging to go show up as your best in any category. So that for me is the basics, is taking care of mind, body, soul. I will say one thing that I've given to all my clients that they really have kind of gleaned onto. I won't let my foot touch the ground, no matter how bad I have to run to the restroom, until I say three things I'm grateful for. Now, if my wife's sleeping next to me, I won't verbalize it. I'll just say it in my head. But literally, before that left foot, because it's always my left foot, that side of bed I'm on, before it touches the ground, I go through the three things I'm grateful for, and it just sets my day off in a great way. So it's a simple thing that we can all do, but you have to be intentional about it.
Man, I love this. You're speaking my language, literally. Like, before I get out of bed every day, attitude of gratitude and prayer. Like, I say a few things I'm grateful for. I pray, and then obviously the 2 feet hit the floor and it's off to running. So I do want to hear. So we preach the same thing, like mind, body, soul. Like mind, body, soul. I do want to hear your habits, man. Like, I want to hear them.
He wants to form a club. He wants to make friendship bracelets. You guys are going to get jackets, the whole thing.
Dude, I'm in. I got the bracelets. We're good. All right. So I already told you that before my foot touches the ground, that happens. Now I get into my meditation. For me, meditation has come in and out of my life. up until about my mid 30s, and now it's here to stay because I don't operate as well without it. And I just quieting the mind. And some days it may be 10 minutes, some days it could be an hour if that's what I need. But it's just quieting the mind. And I do typically a 33 breath meditation. That's my deal, okay? Then I'm moving into moving the body. And at this point with the body, that's going to allow me to fire those endorphins, which is now getting the brain really going. Well, what that leads to is I'm going to start journaling once I've got a sweat. So there are mornings where if I have time, I'll go work out for an hour, hour and a half. If I don't have time, I'm just going to sweat. I might do a little qigong. I don't know. It's something to move. But once that's gone, then I'm ready to write, because journaling for me allows me to just dump good, the bad, the ugly, because that paper has never said I'm brilliant. It's never said I'm stupid. It doesn't tell me anything. It just accepts my thought onto the paper. After that, now we're starting to get into taking care of the mind, and that's where I do a minimum typically of 10 pages a day. Usually it goes much longer than that because I also, Michael, I'm obsessed with reading. It's arguably my second favorite thing outside of podcasting I love to do. Then I'm into taking care of just fueling the body. I intermittent fast, but I do a kind of a modified version of that. So I'll do my greens in the morning, my 12 ounces of green juice. Then I'm diving into some aminos, and then I do a form of bulletproof coffee. It's not that exact thing right now, but it's very similar. At that point, then I'm ready to, take my son to go to drop him off at tennis, and then I'm off to work. So that's a typical morning for me. I may add in a few things if I have time, but that's a pretty typical morning for me.
Man, I love that. Very, very, very similar. No, that's good. I don't journal, but everything else is pretty much like I do an IM exercise versus journaling. So I just do the IM out loud for 5 to 10 minutes, and at nighttime is when I do the journaling before bed. So that's good, man. I love that. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna take some of this stuff with me. What's your intermittent fasting window? What do you do?
Yeah, well, today I'm going strong today, brother. I'm going to be like almost 20 hours.
Oh my God. Oh man.
Well, there's a new guy I've been checking out. He's a 23-hour guy, and that's his like 1 hour feeding window. I'm typically 16 hours. It's, I'm typically done eating by, 8 p.m. is really where I stop. But it's funny. I don't know about you. I don't sweat it anymore because my body just kind of tells me like, hey, you're good, man. You don't need it. And when I need it and it makes sense, I'll throw in a breakfast once a week maybe. But yeah, it's typically about 16 hours.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good stuff. Thank you for thanks for sharing all that.
I have to elaborate. So the meditation, you said, was it a 33 breath?
Yeah, so 33 breath meditation is what I call it. Now that only makes sense to me because for years I've listened to guided meditation. I've done that, and it's cool, and sometimes I choose to do that. But I've really found where I'll just put on a form of meditative music, and I do what's called, so I'm holding my breath for after 6 breaths, so in through the nose, out through the mouth, and then I'll hold for a minute apiece, right, on that 6th breath. And then the last 33, so you said about your IMs, and I love that because we do in my household, my kids have said the exact same affirmation since they could speak. So I also do that during one of the 33. I hope this makes sense. So like the 31 breath, I'm doing that affirmation. The 32, I do a different affirmation. And the 33, I do a separate one. And so I do, the 6 is really quieting the mind. The 6 times 5 is 30. Those first 6 holds, I'm not thinking about anything. Those last 3, I'm doing affirmations. So it's. I hope it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
In my head, it's clear as day, but I know it sounds odd to some.
No, I think that's fantastic because a lot of people meditation, they're they're like, how do I don't want to do this wrong, or how do I do it? And I do it, I'm very much a guided meditation or breath work, whereas he is very similar to you on like there's a count, he's holding his breath for a certain amount of time, he's not listening to any, I mean, it's just like either, theta waves or beta waves or whatever that sounds like. So yeah, that's fascinating to me.
You know, it's so fascinating too, and Michael, I apologize if I cut you off, but it's so fascinating to me when people are like, I don't do it right. My mom, if she's listening, you're doing it right, Mom, if you simply quiet the mind. And when you hear that mind go, you're meditating. That's the biggest thing. I want everybody who's listening, if you ever give yourself a hard time, give yourself some grace on this. It is literally just observing your thoughts. That means you're meditating. 100%. So I think it's just whatever makes you feel good. For some people, it's prayer. For some people, it's meditation. Some people, it's hiking a mountain. For me, it's literally that 33 breath meditation. I feel like a new human being. And so like today, kind of a rough day, kind of got my teeth kicked in a little bit. So I'm going to have a quick little 5-minute meditative set just to reset. And guess what? I'm back at it. So I don't know. It's just important to me.
No, that's thanks for sharing. That's the thing I think is very interesting is it's because what you just said, so many people are like, I do it wrong. I have thoughts that come to my mind. And like when I try guided meditations, I've told Courtney this, my mind races like crazy. Like it is wild. So that's when I change to the, like, I'll do 6 in, hold for 6, 6 out, 6 in, 6 out, hold for 6, 6 out. And then I'll do kind of something like you where I'll breathe in for 6, hold for 30, 7 out. And I just kind of change it up. But it's, but that's the only way, like focusing on your breath is that's ultimately what keeps my mind clear. But no, I feel like we could talk about this all day long. So let's get to, let's go win, man. How'd you come up with that? What does that mean? Like, let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I love this question because what's fascinating, the question of how did I come up with it? There was a journal back when I was, I believe, 20 or 21. And I wrote in there, let's go win. I had the 3 circles. They didn't have colors. It was in black and white because I was just writing. And literally, I that notebook went into a little memento box, okay? As I'm cleaning out my garage, after I'd written the book, we're moving from California to Florida, my wife's like, hey, throw some of this junk out. And I'm going through this memento box. I open up the journal to Let's Go Win. I had marinated on this thing for literally 20 years, brother. And and both of you, sorry, I said brother, but I see that. But I literally was thinking about it, I guess, in my subconscious for that long. And so I am obsessed with winning, but not winning like I win, you lose. I'm obsessed with winning the day, giving my very best, right? So I don't believe in failure in the traditional sense. Like, look, if you fail, quote unquote, it's just a learning lesson. The only way you ever really lose is if you quit. And so Let's Go Win is all about that. The whole goal is to set people up to win every single moment, every single day, to be intentional about what they're doing. And so it's really a lifestyle, and it's something that I talk about frequently with my kids, with the executives I work with. It's just something that I'm passionate about because I believe all of us have so much to give this world, and yet we have some of these self-limiting beliefs that get in our way. And I don't hate anything, I really don't, except for self-limiting beliefs, man. I hate them. I loathe them. I want to destroy them because of some of the hardwires people have been given. It's like, that's not your fault that you think that way, but we can also overcome it. So that's what Let's Go Win's all about, is helping people overcome it.
I want to dive into the self-limiting beliefs because I am in the same wheelhouse as you are. I am not a fan, and I'm always trying to reprogram. But I think collectively as human beings, a lot of us bring that to the table, and we bring a lot of the same beliefs to the table. So what do you see kind of across the board are some of the same limiting beliefs that people constantly bring you?
Money is one of the biggest ones. And I shared that, right? I was taught that it was for the pretty people, which for some reason that was a bad thing. Like, I don't know, being pretty is a good idea, but I took it as a negative connotation. So money is a big one. Just achieving in general, there's so much self-sabotage and I'm not worthy. I've seen so many gifted, and I will speak specifically in the insurance world. I've seen so many gifted producers that right when they're about to hit whatever ceiling they had put in their way, they self-sabotage, man, and they do it in an epic way. And it's because they don't feel worthy. So I see that in achievement a ton. Relationships, I see it all the time. I've been hurt once, therefore I'm going to go ahead and make sure this one doesn't work. And so, you know what's interesting, Courtney, is because these are things that were given to you. Like 80% of your hardwires were put into you before you had a long-term memory. And so the way you think so often is just generations that have been passed down. Some of that goop that we got from our parents. And I had two of the most incredible parents I think this earth has ever seen, but that doesn't mean they didn't pass down some of their limiting beliefs. And so for me, it was money. And once I figured out how to overcome that, it's just made, A, money comes easier now. B, it's a heck of a lot more fun, and I can do so much good with it. Whereas when I first made seven figures, I remember hitting that mark because that was a big one, making $1 million a year. I felt terrible. I was like, I felt like a piece of garbage. Sorry, I don't know if we cussed.
Oh, yeah, you can let her rip. Go for it.
Okay. But I felt like shit. You know, I was like, man, I didn't feel good, and it was because of some of these things I had picked up. Once I realized, like, money's just a thing. It's just something that you can go do amazing things with if you choose to, but it shouldn't rule your life or your thoughts, and it did for me. But once you overcome it, the world just looks different.
That's incredible. So what were some of the tools? Because I understand money. I understand, not being deserving or hitting a ceiling or thinking it's reserved for a certain kind of person or money's the root of all evil, all these things that we're conditioned to believe. What are some tools or books that you read? Like, how did you work through that? Because that's a big one.
Yeah, I'm going to give easy tools because the work that it can take is substantial, again, if you want to really dive into this crazy world of self-development. And some people are really adverse to that for whatever reason. That's fine. But one of the most simple things you can do is to ask why. Why do I believe that? Now, once you've figured out why, which that may take some quiet time to figure out why you think this way. Why do I say these things? Where did that come from? I use the 3 R's when it comes to a fear. So if your fear is, again, making money, or even better, a relationship. I'm fearful of a relationship because I've been hurt. Okay? Write that down. The first thing is to recognize that fear. So you write it down. The second R is to release it, to get rid of it. So you want to maim that thing. I'm talking burn it, shred it, throw it through, whatever you want to do, eat it. I don't care. Get rid of it. And then the third R is to react in opposition. So if that fear is relationship, go put yourself back out there again. And what you'll find is, oh, wow, there's some amazing human beings out there. I was actually the one getting in the way. And I've done it. It's so amazing when you do that simple little RRR. It's like, okay, I recognize my fear. I released it. I react in opposition. It's not going to happen the first time where it's like, oh, the fear is gone. I'm no longer afraid of public speaking. No, you may have to do it a few times, right? But once you do that, it's amazing. The other thing, and Michael, I don't know if you meant to say this the way you did, but it was almost a form of box breathing that Michael does, which is breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and nothing for 4. I do that with clients often when they're dealing with some of these fears because it's ultimately our head that's getting in the way. It's nothing else. And fear is made up. So I'll have them box breathe, and it's amazing how all of a sudden it's like, what was I worried about before? It's gone.
Now this is this is good. I love the recognize, release, react, and opposition, right? The 3 R's, is that right?
Yeah. And then it's almost like you have to repeat. Then it's like continue to like repetition after that. Continue to react in opposition over and over and over again. Yeah, that's incredible.
That's how you're going to build. It's like a muscle. I mean, you're going to push
Yeah.
through, but then you got to continue to build that muscle, or else I would assume you would go back to continuing that the self-belief, the self-sabotage.
100%. You know, it's the way you said that is brilliant too, because if you think about it, quantity versus quality, if you want quality, you have to do a tremendous amount of quantity. You have to practice again and again and again. And guess what? After a time, you get better at it. So whatever that fear was, if I keep trying it, I'm going to eventually get good at it. And that's the 10,000 hour rule that Gladwell talked about back in Outliers, I think it was, is when he initially brought that out. But it's so true in any endeavor. It's like, just go put yourself out there a couple times. You probably suck the first time, maybe the 100th time, but eventually you're going to get good at it. And that's my belief in anything, is if it's getting in your way of accomplishing whatever, and in this case I said the relationship, everybody deserves that partner in life. And you guys are so lucky. I had a chance to talk to you off air. You're amazing, but you're also probably intentional about finding that human being that completes you. That's awesome. Not everyone has that because they don't allow themselves to. So through that 3 R's, they can do it too. So I don't know, man. It's just, I hate self-limiting beliefs. So if anybody wants to use them, do it, because it's awesome.
Yeah. That's incredible.
Well, and self-limiting beliefs it's very, and so is that what you mainly work on as like a coach with the Let's Go Win, is trying to figure out, like, helping overcome the self-limiting beliefs?
It's that, brother, and it's helping people just show up as them. I call it show up as you, as the actual program. But we at some point all start putting these masks on, right? I think it starts at like 5th, 6th, 7th grade, where we're trying to fit in. So instead of being who we are, we're like, put this mask on. Oh, now I'm part of the cool kid group. Oh, but I got to put this mask on. And it gets really heavy after a while. And you almost forget who that 5-year-old was, that amazing light that shines. And so often when I watch this happen, and you see it all the time with executives that have crushed it financially, but their health is literally horrible, or their relationships, they've been, and again, nothing to somebody that's been divorced 3 times, but one of my clients, his why is his family, but he's been divorced 3 times. Well, it's because he's not able to be vulnerable, to show up as himself. And once we release those masks, once we take that stuff off, even doing that, feel that, it feels like a weight's taken off. And now it doesn't take any energy to just be you. It takes so much energy to show up as somebody you're not. So that's the other concept that I spend a lot of time on, is like, look, I know you want to just be you. I know we all want to be happy. The human race wants to be happy. I believe that. We've forgotten how to sometimes.
I can go so many ways with this because I love it so much. So we have a family motto, happy, healthy, wealthy. And we think that it goes in that order. Like, happiness has to come first before anything else. Then your health, then your wealth. Like that's our structure. But I think what you're talking about right there is really this act of vulnerability that I can speak for myself. Like, that's scary to say, what if I put myself out there, I take all of these masks off, and then I'm judged for who I actually am. And I think if I have the mask on, then it's like, oh, well, if they don't like me, that's okay, because that's not the real me. You know what I mean?
I do. So let me give you an example. I'm 6'5", okay? That's how God made me. One way or the other. It takes 0 time, 0 energy, and I'm in complete alignment at 6'5". However, I could probably convince you all I'm 5'5", with enough time, enough exerted energy, and my back is all out of crazy alignment. But why? Why? And look, being 6'5" is just who I am. It takes none. So why put all this energy out to be something that I'm not? What you'll find, the answer to that question is, it's so much more fulfilling. Even if you put yourself out there and you are judged, because there's a point in all of our lives where we don't give a shit what anyone else thinks. For some people, it happens at 20 years old. Some people, it's 80 years old. Hopefully, it's sooner rather than later for most. But once you hit that point, you feel it just come off. It's like, wow, hey, you may not like me, but guess what? I don't care, because this is all I got. I'm going to give you my very best. And if your intent is to be amazing, so what? So what? Everybody doesn't like you. And by the way, if you are your authentic self, more people will like you than not. The shell is just, you can feel it. We're energetic beings. When you have somebody putting up that wall, you feel it. And those aren't the people you're really attracted to.
Yeah.
So good.
It is, especially because in sales or in insurance, where you're having to connect on such a deep level, on such a personal level, that a lot of times I think that's what holds us back in our profession and in sales is really like, ugh, what if they hang up on me? What if they call me this or that? Or what if I'm bothering them, or I'm pushy, or I don't want to ask this question because it's about life insurance, which is talking about death or whatever. So I think that that's crucial that you hit on really being vulnerable and being your authentic self, because people can receive that, whether it's on the phone or in person or whatever, especially in this occupation.
Oh, for sure. And you know, it's so fascinating. Immediately I go back into training and sales with insurance. You said one thing earlier, and then I want to add to what you said. One of the things I said to every single one of my clients in life insurance, again, I didn't know anything about what the rates were or the historical returns. I didn't know any of that stuff. But what I did know is health is wealth. I'm like, look, your health is your wealth right now. Like, I can't help you if you're not healthy. And eventually you're not going to be. So that's literally one thing that you said. I'm like, happy, healthy, wealthy. I'm like, she's training on insurance. Right? Health is wealth. But it is so fascinating. I told you I did sales briefly, but when I did, the only reason I was good is because I connected with people. If I walk through the door and people that have been taught this really crappy rapport building where it's like, hey, how's your day going? Like, dude, stop. What's that painting on the wall? Is it a Rembrandt? No, actually, it's not, dummy. If you actually just said, where are you from, Michael? What are you into, Courtney? And you actually connect with another human being. And the benefit you have if you're doing face-to-face sales, if you are presenting with a computer, get it the heck out of the way, because heart to heart, that's how you're going to connect with a human being. And when you do that, they will give you everything, because it's not buying the product, they're buying you. And you guys know that. I'm sure you train on that all the time. But it's literally, they're going to trust to buy you. They don't really care what the product is. It's nice that you're with State Farm or this nice reputable brand. That's cool. But the truth is they're buying from that person.
That's right. That's right, man. People buy. We're in the people business. Like,
People buy people.
How do you make people feel? Like, period. I love that. My man, so Let's Go Win. It's a book found on, how can people get it?
They can go to letsgowin.com or Amazon. It's available. They distribute all the time.
They have everything.
Packages. Yeah, every day for you, Courtney. They're coming through.
Yeah. They're literally like, I have stock on Amazon. Woo woo. That's where we're at. I want to know, before we hop off, I want people to be able to connect with you, but I want to hear, what are you most excited about currently in your life or in your business or just right now?
Such a good question. I will say professionally what I'm most excited about. I love to write and read, as I told you earlier. I'm writing my third book, and this one's been hard, man. It has been a drain, and yet I know it's going to impact a lot of people. So I'm really excited about that. Personally, I'm most excited about just watching my boys develop into the young men that they're becoming. Not to totally break my arm patting myself and my wife on the back, but we're raising some pretty awesome little dudes, and they're turning into little men, and then soon they'll be grown men. And it's so rewarding. And I learn so much from them every day. And it's been a cool ride. So that's the two things, I guess, in my life that I'm most proud of and happy for.
No, that's amazing. I do have a question. Since you're a big reader, top 1 or 2 books you recommend reading?
So the 2 I recommend the most are Mindset by Carol Dweck and Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Because I've never had somebody come back and be like, that sucks. Although Man's Search for Meaning is a brutal read in terms of the content, but I read those typically once a year. Also, Think and Grow Rich. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. Anything Patrick Lencioni puts out, I think he's brilliant. So way more than 2. I could go on for days. There's so many brilliant minds out there, and but those are a couple of them.
I feel like we should do a collab, like a book collab of like our favorites and post it on social media because there's a lot of great books and I love those recommendations. So let's go in. I will drop all of this in the show notes too if you want to connect with JM. Highly encourage that, especially if you're trying to work through your performance or how you show up in the world or your mindset. If that's getting in the way of the life that you want to live or the business that you want to have, definitely connect with JM. It's been a wonderful conversation. We enjoyed chatting, getting to know each other beforehand. And then this has been great. I learned a ton, especially about your day and how you set it up. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you both. You guys are amazing. Keep helping so many people the way you are, and I'm appreciative. I really am grateful to have met you, and thank you guys for spending the time with me and having me on.
Absolutely, my man. Thank you, and thank you, everyone. As you know, time is the most valuable and important asset that we all have. We appreciate you spending time with us. Go out and make it great.